Most parents dealing with their toddler's eczema have no idea that the most effective long-term relief doesn't come from a tube of cream. It doesn't come from a prescription. And it doesn't come from the endless cycle of treating flare-ups after they've already happened. The real solution has been sitting in kitchens for generations. Specific foods eaten consistently that calm the inflammation driving eczema from the inside out and rebuild the skin's ability to hold moisture and protect itself. Parents across multiple cultures have used these foods for decades, long before dermatology had a name for what they were observing in their children. Today, we're breaking down 7 of those foods, gentle, toddler-friendly, and deeply supported by research that's emerged only in the last 20 years. Stay with us because number 3 on this list addresses eczema at its root cause, the gut-skin connection that most pediatricians still don't talk about. And number 1, the final food, has been used by mothers in traditional households for hundreds of years to calm inflamed skin, and modern dermatological research has now confirmed exactly why it works. 7 foods. Generations of observation. Let's get into it. Number 7, wild-caught salmon. The omega-3 powerhouse that calms skin inflammation from the inside. If you had to pick one food to address toddler eczema at its most fundamental level, salmon would be at the very top of the list. And the reason comes down to a specific family of fats that the human body cannot make on its own and can only get from food. Wild-caught salmon is one of the richest natural sources of long-chain omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA. These 2 compounds are among the most powerful anti-inflammatory substances found in any natural food. Inside the body, they get incorporated directly into cell membranes, including the membranes of skin cells, where they influence how those cells respond to irritation, allergens, and environmental stress. For a toddler with eczema, this matters enormously. Eczema at its core is an inflammatory condition. The red patches, the itching, the dryness that refuses to heal, all of it is driven by an overactive inflammatory response in the skin. Omega-3 fatty acids, taken in regularly through food, shift that response toward balance. They don't shut it down. They don't suppress the immune system. They give the body the raw materials it needs to produce its own anti-inflammatory compounds and keep the inflammatory cycle from spinning out of control. Multiple clinical studies have found that children who consume omega-3 rich foods regularly show reduced eczema severity, less itching, and fewer flare-ups compared to children whose diets are low in these fats. The effect isn't immediate. It builds over weeks of consistent intake. But once it's established, it holds. Preparation for toddlers is straightforward. Gently baked or pan-seared salmon, flaked into small pieces and served warm with a little olive oil, is ideal for children over 12 months. For younger babies who have been introduced to fish without any reaction, mashed salmon mixed with avocado or sweet potato creates a smooth, toddler-friendly texture. Always check thoroughly for small bones before serving. Choose wild-caught salmon over farmed when possible. Wild salmon contains significantly higher levels of omega-3s and far fewer of the inflammatory omega-6 fats that farmed salmon picks up from grain-based feed. The difference in nutritional profile between the two is substantial, and for a child dealing with chronic inflammation, that difference matters. Serve salmon 2 to 3 times a week, and you're delivering exactly what a toddler's inflamed skin is asking for. Gently, consistently, and without any side effects. Number 6, ripe avocado, the fatty fruit that rebuilds the skin barrier. Avocado is one of the most widely recommended first foods for babies, and for children dealing with eczema, it's particularly valuable. The reason goes beyond its reputation as a healthy fat source and into something more specific about how avocado supports the skin at a structural level. Avocados are rich in monounsaturated fats, vitamin E, and a range of antioxidant compounds that directly support skin health. The fats in avocado help the body build and maintain healthy cell membranes throughout the body, including in the skin. A toddler with eczema often has a compromised skin barrier, meaning the outermost layer of the skin isn't holding moisture effectively and isn't protecting against irritants the way it should. Healthy fats delivered consistently through the diet are one of the building blocks that help repair that barrier. Vitamin E, found in generous amounts in avocado, is one of the most important fat-soluble antioxidants in the body. It protects skin cells from oxidative damage, supports wound healing, and plays a direct role in keeping the skin soft and resilient. Studies have shown that children with eczema often have lower levels of vitamin E in their systems than children without eczema, which makes dietary sources of this nutrient particularly valuable. Avocados also deliver a type of fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria. This connects back to something we'll discuss in more detail later in this list. But for now, it's worth knowing that supporting gut health is one of the most effective long-term interventions for eczema, and avocado contributes to that goal alongside everything else it offers. Preparation is simple. For babies starting solids, ripe avocado mashed smooth with a fork makes an ideal first food. For toddlers, dice it into small pieces or mash it onto whole grain toast. Avocado pairs beautifully with salmon, sweet potato, and soft-cooked vegetables, and most children genuinely like the creamy texture. Choose avocados that give slightly when pressed but aren't mushy. Overripe avocados can have off flavors that children will reject, and underripe avocados are hard to digest for young systems. Timing the ripeness right is a small thing, but it makes the difference between a food a toddler will eat regularly and one they'll push away. Here's what makes avocado particularly valuable for eczema. It's one of the few nutrient-dense, anti-inflammatory foods that almost every toddler will eat willingly. That matters more than most parents realize. Consistency is what moves the needle on eczema, and a food the child actually eats is worth far more than a food with a slightly better nutritional profile that ends up on the floor. Number 5. Pumpkin and winter squash. The beta-carotene-rich foods that soothe inflamed skin. For generations, traditional households across multiple cultures have served pumpkin, butternut squash, and other winter squash varieties as part of the regular diet during the colder months. These foods weren't just seasonal staples. They were understood through long observation to support skin health, eye health, and general resilience during a time of year when dryness and cold were hardest on the body. Modern nutritional science has given us a clear explanation for why. Pumpkin and winter squash are extraordinarily rich in beta-carotene, a compound the body converts into active vitamin A. Vitamin A plays a central role in skin health. It supports the production and turnover of skin cells, helps regulate the inflammatory response in the skin, and contributes directly to the integrity of the skin barrier. Research has consistently shown that children and adults with eczema tend to have compromised vitamin A status, either through lower dietary intake or through issues with absorption. Addressing this through food, rather than through high-dose supplements, is one of the safest and most effective ways to support the skin over time. Beyond beta-carotene, pumpkin and winter squash deliver vitamin C, vitamin E, potassium, magnesium, and a range of additional antioxidant compounds that protect skin cells from damage. The natural sweetness of these foods makes them highly palatable to toddlers, which is a significant practical advantage when you're trying to establish consistent eating habits. Preparation is wonderfully flexible. Roasted butternut squash cut into small, soft cubes is a classic toddler favorite. Pumpkin puree stirred into oatmeal, blended into a soup with a little coconut milk, or mixed into pancake batter all deliver the same nutritional benefits in different forms. Sweet potato belongs in this same family and offers a similar profile, so rotating between these foods keeps the diet varied. One important note on cooking. The beta-carotene in these foods is fat-soluble, which means it's absorbed far more effectively when eaten with a source of healthy fat. A drizzle of olive oil over roasted squash, a spoonful of coconut milk stirred into pumpkin soup, or a small pat of butter melted onto sweet potato, all significantly increase how much of the beta-carotene the body actually absorbs. This is exactly the kind of traditional preparation wisdom that emerged over centuries of observation, long before anyone understood the biochemistry behind it. For a toddler with eczema, a serving of pumpkin or winter squash 3 to 4 times a week contributes something meaningful to skin health over time. It's not a quick fix, it's a steady, consistent input that gradually shifts the body's ability to maintain healthy skin from the inside. And if you're finding any of this useful, take a second to hit like and subscribe. We go deep on gentle food-first solutions for the real problems parents face, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Number 4. Bone broth. The traditional healing liquid that rebuilds the skin from the inside. Bone broth has been a staple of traditional households across almost every culture on Earth, and for good reason. Before modern medicine and modern supplements, long-simmered bone broth was one of the most reliable ways to deliver concentrated nutrition and support the body's ability to heal itself. For a toddler with eczema, bone broth may be one of the most powerful foods on this entire list. Here's what makes it remarkable. When bones, joints, and connective tissue are simmered for many hours, they release a concentrated supply of collagen, gelatin, amino acids, and a range of minerals directly into the broth. These compounds play specific roles in skin health. Glycine and proline, two of the most abundant amino acids in bone broth, are the primary building blocks of collagen, the protein that gives skin its strength and structure. A child whose skin is constantly being damaged by eczema has an ongoing need for these building blocks to support repair and regeneration. Bone broth also delivers a compound called glutamine, an amino acid that plays a central role in maintaining the integrity of the intestinal lining. This is where the eczema picture gets more interesting. A significant body of research has connected chronic skin inflammation, including eczema, to a condition where the intestinal lining becomes more permeable than it should be, allowing food particles and inflammatory compounds to cross into the bloodstream in ways that trigger immune responses throughout the body, including in the skin. Glutamine, delivered through foods like bone broth, supports the repair and maintenance of the intestinal lining. Over time, this reduces the underlying inflammatory load on the body and can significantly improve eczema severity. This isn't a new idea. Traditional healers and grandmothers have been prescribing bone broth for skin conditions, digestive issues, and general recovery for centuries. Modern research is simply providing the mechanism. Preparation is simple in concept, though it requires time. Use high-quality bones from grass-fed beef, pasture-raised chicken, or wild-caught fish. Simmer them with filtered water, a small amount of apple cider vinegar to help draw minerals out of the bones, and any vegetables or aromatics you like. Cook for 12 to 24 hours for beef bones, 6 to 8 hours for chicken. Strain and store in the refrigerator or freezer. For toddlers, bone broth can be served on its own as a warm drink in a small cup, used as the base for vegetable soups and purees, or used to cook grains like rice and oats for extra nourishment. A small serving every day or every other day is ideal. Homemade is far superior to store-bought in almost every case, because the gelatin content and mineral density are much higher when the broth has been simmered properly and not diluted for commercial production. Here's what makes bone broth particularly important for a child with eczema. It addresses both the skin directly, through the amino acids and minerals it delivers, and the gut, indirectly, through the compounds that support intestinal healing. Few other foods work on both levels at once. Fewer still do it as gently or as safely as a simple cup of well-made broth. Number 3. Fermented foods. The gut-skin connection most pediatricians don't discuss. And here we come to one of the most important pieces of the eczema puzzle, a connection that traditional cultures understood instinctively for thousands of years, and that modern research has only begun to map in the last 2 decades. The gut-skin axis. A direct two-way relationship between what's happening in the digestive system and what's showing up on the skin. Children with eczema consistently show differences in their gut microbiome compared to children without eczema. They often have lower diversity of beneficial bacteria, higher populations of certain inflammatory strains, and a compromised intestinal lining that allows inflammatory signals to affect the entire body, including the skin. This is where fermented foods become one of the most powerful interventions available. Fermented foods deliver live beneficial bacteria that colonize the digestive tract, crowd out harmful strains, and produce compounds that directly reduce inflammation throughout the body. Multiple studies have shown that children who consume fermented foods regularly, or who receive targeted probiotic support, experience significant improvements in eczema severity over time. The most toddler-friendly fermented foods include plain whole milk yogurt, kefir, and small amounts of naturally fermented vegetables like mild sauerkraut or kimchi for older toddlers. Yogurt and kefir in particular are worth highlighting because they're easy to introduce, widely tolerated, and deliver a broad range of beneficial bacterial strains. Plain whole milk yogurt, without added sugar or flavoring, is an ideal daily food for toddlers with eczema. A small bowl topped with mashed berries or a swirl of honey for children over 1 year old delivers probiotic cultures along with the calcium, fat, and protein a growing child needs. Kefir, as we discussed in an earlier video, takes this even further by delivering dozens of different bacterial and yeast strains in a single serving. For children who tolerate stronger fermented flavors, small amounts of sauerkraut or other fermented vegetables can be introduced slowly. Start with a teaspoon mixed into other foods, and increase gradually as the child's palate and digestive system adjust. Fermented vegetables deliver both probiotics and a range of compounds that support the digestive lining directly. Here's what makes this particularly interesting. Traditional cultures across every continent on Earth independently arrived at fermentation as a central food preservation and preparation technique. Sauerkraut in Germany, kimchi in Korea, miso and natto in Japan, kefir in the Caucasus, lassi in India, fermented cassava in parts of Africa. Without any shared understanding of microbiology, these cultures all converged on the same practice, and the children raised on these traditional diets generally showed fewer of the chronic inflammatory conditions, including eczema, that have become so common in cultures that have moved away from fermented foods. When you introduce fermented foods into a toddler's diet consistently, you're tapping into one of the oldest and most effective traditions in human nutrition. The results show up in the gut first and in the skin soon after. Number 2. Chia and flax seeds, the tiny seeds with an outsized impact on skin. Chia and flax seeds are two of the most nutrient-dense foods you can add to a toddler's diet, and for eczema specifically, they bring something that few other plant foods can match. They are among the richest plant sources of omega-3 fatty acids on Earth. While the omega-3s in chia and flax, known as ALA, aren't as directly usable by the body as the E, PA, and DHA found in fish like salmon, they still play a meaningful role. Some of the ALA is converted in the body into the more active forms, and the remainder contributes to the overall anti-inflammatory balance of the diet. For children who don't eat fish regularly, or whose families follow plant-based diets, chia and flax become particularly important. Beyond the omega-3s, these seeds deliver soluble fiber, lignans, magnesium, calcium, and a range of antioxidant compounds. The fiber content specifically is worth noting. Chia and flax both form a gel-like consistency when soaked in liquid, and this gel supports healthy digestion and feeds the beneficial bacteria in the gut. For a toddler with eczema, where gut health and skin health are so closely linked, this kind of gentle microbiome support is exactly what the body needs. Preparation matters here. Flax seeds should always be ground before serving, because whole flax seeds pass through the digestive system without releasing most of their nutrients. A small coffee grinder or a good blender can turn a batch of whole flax into usable ground flax in seconds, and the ground seeds keep well in the refrigerator for a week or two. Chia seeds can be used whole, but for young children, soaking them first into a pudding consistency makes them easier to eat and reduces any risk of swelling in the throat. A simple chia pudding made with whole milk or a plant-based alternative, sweetened lightly with mashed banana or pear, makes an excellent breakfast or snack for a toddler. A teaspoon of ground flax stirred into oatmeal, yogurt, or pancake batter adds nutrition without changing the flavor in any noticeable way. Small, consistent servings over time deliver exactly what a child's inflamed skin needs. Here's what makes this approach particularly valuable. Chia and flax are inexpensive, shelf-stable, and easy to incorporate into almost any meal a toddler already eats. You don't have to convince a child to eat a new food. You simply add a small amount of these seeds to foods they already enjoy, and the nutritional profile of that meal improves dramatically. Over weeks and months of this kind of consistent inclusion, the effect on the skin is meaningful. Ancient cultures across multiple continents used chia and flax for similar reasons. Chia was a staple of the Aztec and Mayan diets, valued for its ability to sustain energy and support endurance. Flax has been cultivated in the Mediterranean and Middle East for over 6,000 years, appearing in traditional remedies for skin conditions, digestive issues, and general vitality. What those cultures observed, modern research is now confirming in detail. Number 1. Oats, both eaten and bathed in, the grain that heals skin inside and out. And here is the one that changes how you read everything else. Oats are unique among the foods on this list because they support eczema in two completely different ways. Eaten as food, oats deliver a specific combination of nutrients that support skin health, gut health, and overall inflammatory balance. Used topically, oats have one of the oldest and most well-documented histories of any natural remedy for inflamed and irritated skin. Let's start with what oats do from the inside. Oats contain beta-glucan, the same soluble fiber that makes barley so valuable for cholesterol and blood sugar regulation. Inside the gut, beta-glucan feeds beneficial bacteria, supports the production of short-chain fatty acids, and helps maintain the integrity of the intestinal lining. All of this translates directly into reduced systemic inflammation and better skin. Oats are also rich in a class of compounds called avenanthramides, found almost nowhere else in nature. These compounds have powerful anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects, and research has shown that they can specifically reduce skin inflammation, itching, and redness. When a child eats oats regularly, these compounds circulate throughout the body and contribute to a calmer inflammatory baseline. The mineral profile of oats adds to the picture. Oats deliver zinc, magnesium, and B vitamins, all of which play roles in skin health and repair. Zinc in particular is worth highlighting. Research has consistently shown that children with eczema often have lower zinc levels than children without eczema, and supporting zinc intake through food is a safe, effective intervention. For toddlers, oatmeal cooked with whole milk or a plant-based alternative, topped with mashed fruit, a drizzle of flax oil, or a small amount of nut butter, makes an ideal breakfast several times a week. Old-fashioned rolled oats are preferable to instant oats, which have been processed in ways that diminish some of the nutritional value. And here is where it gets especially interesting. The same oats you feed your child can be used to calm their skin directly. Traditional households across Europe, North America, and parts of Asia have used oatmeal baths and oat poultices for centuries to soothe inflamed skin, rashes, insect bites, and eczema flare-ups. The practice was common enough that grandmothers in multiple countries handed down the technique to their daughters and granddaughters as a matter of course. Modern dermatological research has confirmed exactly why this works. Colloidal oatmeal, which is simply finely ground whole oats, contains the same avenanthramides that reduce inflammation from the inside. When applied to the skin through a bath or a paste, these compounds act directly on the inflamed areas. They reduce itching, calm redness, soothe dryness, and support the skin's barrier function. Multiple clinical studies have shown that colloidal oatmeal baths significantly reduce eczema severity in children, and colloidal oatmeal is now an active ingredient in many commercial eczema products. The traditional preparation is simple. Grind a cup of plain rolled oats into a fine powder using a blender or food processor. Add the powder to a warm, not hot, bath and stir until the water becomes milky. Let the child soak for 10 to 15 minutes, then gently pat dry without rubbing. Apply a simple moisturizer immediately afterward while the skin is still slightly damp. Done 2 or 3 times a week during a flare-up, this practice can dramatically reduce symptoms. Here is the part that stops most parents in their tracks. The same food sitting in your pantry, the same oatmeal you feed your child for breakfast, is one of the most effective natural eczema treatments ever identified. Eaten consistently, it supports the skin from the inside. Used in a bath, it calms the skin from the outside. No prescription, no complicated regimen, just a simple, humble grain that generations of mothers and grandmothers knew exactly how to use. 7 foods, all of them pointing back to the same truth. Toddler eczema is rarely solved with a single cream, a single prescription, or a single quick fix. It's resolved, gradually and durably, by addressing the inflammation at its source, supporting the gut-skin connection, rebuilding the skin barrier, and giving the body the raw materials it needs to heal itself. The parents who handle eczema well aren't chasing the latest product. They're paying attention to what their child's body is telling them, offering the foods that generations of families have used for exactly this situation, and trusting that a gentle, food-first approach works more often than not. Quality matters more than most people realize. Wild-caught salmon delivers something farmed salmon cannot. Ripe organic avocado is a different food from an underripe conventional one. Homemade bone broth simmered slowly is nothing like the boxed, diluted version on the grocery shelf. The right versions of these foods, served consistently, are what make this approach work. If your child is dealing with eczema right now, pick 1 or 2 of these foods from the list and start incorporating them this week. Drop a comment below and let me know which one you're starting with. I genuinely love hearing which solutions parents find most helpful. One last note. If your toddler's eczema is severe, if the skin is broken or infected, or if anything else feels off, always work with your pediatrician or a pediatric dermatologist. Food first is powerful, but nothing replaces a real evaluation when something feels wrong. If you got something out of this video, hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss what we put out next. we go deep on gentle, food-based solutions for the real problems parents face. And the next one is already in the works. And if you're still curious, stick around.